Hello, and welcome to the TechHub.training Excel Auditing Porter's Plates Challenge solution. This video walks through the risk areas of Porter's Plates and how I approached interpreting and presenting the data. This solution includes using XLOOKUP and pivot tables. With that, let's get started. First, I'll open up the spreadsheet and notice that I've used tab colors to distinguish between all the different tabs. This will come in handy later whenever we're on my combined data sheet. Other than that, all of the tables are the same as the original file, with the exception of the sales order detail. I went ahead and added an extension column here that will be useful later in our analysis. So in the combined data formula sheet, I started with the invoice detail as my base. So these are all values, and then used XLOOKUP to bring in values from all of the other sheets, which you can distinguish by their color. If you need this formula, go ahead and pause the video to take a look, but we'll go ahead and keep going. All of these other fields that are white are just calculated fields. So this one is quantity times price. Simply the quantity sold from the invoice detail sheet times the price in the inventory sheet. And then at the end, we have some other calculated fields that are the quantity minus the price minus the sales order extension. This would find any errors where the invoice detail and the inventory sheets have different data than the sales order sheet. The sales order extension minus sales order total will find any differences between the sales order and the invoice total. Despite the name, this sales order total is in column K2, and that is part of the invoice summary sheet. And then this invoice total minus receipt total takes the sales order total plus the freight, shown here, minus the discount plus the receipt amount. And so this should always be 0. If it's not 0, that means that Porter's Plates isn't collecting the correct amount of cash that is documented. This final one is called address, and it simply compares the customer's address to the address of the salesperson. And that would be an issue if they were the same, because that may be related party transactions, or perhaps salespeople aren't very creative but are creating fake customers to falsify sales to. So that's the combined data sheet. I also made a copy of it that are simply values, and I've already filtered this a little bit, but you can tell that there are no formulas in here, just values, and I used this sheet to form my pivot table. So moving over to my pivot table, here we see some salespeople are changing the invoices after the sales orders are created. This first person, Kenley Bowman, is undercharging. However, Porter's Plates is collecting all of the cash. So we can see here this sales order extension, if you remember, was calculated on the sales order, and the sales total comes from the invoice summary sheet. And so this transaction lost $2,250 by the time the invoice was created. However, as shown over here, the invoice total and the receipt total match. So Porter's Plates is collecting the cash, but it's not as much as they originally planned. And so this should be showing as a discount probably, or there may be some other problems, but this is definitely worth looking into. Of note is Landon Lucas, who is doing the opposite, increasing the invoice total, and then that cash isn't being collected by Porter's Plates. So this could be that Landon is siphoning this cash toward themselves, or just not updating the cash receipts, or they aren't sending out the correct invoices. Nonetheless, there's a control problem, a big risk here that cash collections and perhaps even revenue aren't being recognized correctly, and so that's something worth investigating further. For the second pivot table, these show invoices with the same address as the salesperson. So our friend Landon Lucas again has an invoice where he sold $10,000 worth of goods to his own home address, which is obviously an issue. And then Layla Brennan and William Weaver also did the same thing. And this totals about $22,000. This is obviously an issue that's worth investigating. There may be some issues with salesperson incentives or tone at the top. Nonetheless, there are some shady things happening at Porter's Plates this year, and now we've gotten this much closer to getting to the bottom of it. I'd like to point out that even though I use pivot tables, this definitely isn't the only way or necessarily the one correct way to solve this challenge. So I'm excited to see what pivot tables or visualizations you use to investigate this data. Thank you.